In this video, we will install Ansible Semaphore Web UI on Alma Linux 9. Semaphore is an open-source web-based solution that makes Ansible easy to use for IT teams of all kinds. It gives you a web interface from where you can launch and manage Ansible tasks. Semaphore depends on database, like MariaDB or PostgreSQL. It also required Git, and of course, Ansible to be installed on the server. In my previous video, I had already installed Ansible. So you should follow that video before proceeding with this video on installing Ansible Semaphore. Before any installation, I recommend you to perform an update on the OS. Then, using the curl command, we will download the script that will set up the MariaDB repo file. Once the file is downloaded, we will now execute the script. Run these commands to install the latest stable release of MariaDB's database server. Once installed, start the systemd service for MariaDB-server and at the same time enabling it during startup. We can verify here that MariaDB is successfully running. Now we're going to set up MariaDB by running the secure script. The first step asks for the root password, which hasn't been set, so we'll press enter as it recommends. We don't want to use Unix socket authentication for this setup, so let's choose no here. Next, we'll be prompted to set that root password. Keep in mind that this is for the root database user, not the root user for the OS. After updating the password, we will accept all the security suggestions that follow by pressing Y and then enter. This will remove anonymous users, disallow remote root login, remove the test database, and reload the privilege tables. Now that we've secured the installation, we can now log in as root user and create the database and database user for Semaphore. Next, we are going to install Git. The easiest way to install Git is by using the package manager DNF. And then confirm the Git version installed. By this time, we have all the requirements needed. We can now download the Semaphore package. But first, let's install wget. And then we can download the Semaphore RPM package. Now we install. Once installed, we create a user that will run the Semaphore service. And then we will change to the Semaphore user we just created. This user will run the Semaphore setup. So let's run the setup now. The setup script will ask us a couple of questions. You will need to provide information about the database hostname, the database user, and the password to use by Semaphore to connect to the database. We will also need to point the playbook path to the home directory of the Semaphore user we created earlier. From this question onward, we can accept the default and press enter. Now we need to provide the initial user. Enter your preferred username, email, name, and password. When the setup script is complete, we can now exit this user. Let's now create the systemd service unit file for Semaphore. As you can see here, I specify that this service should be run by user Semaphore. And the config is located in this directory. Now let's create the config directory and link the JSON file. And change the ownership to be owned by the Semaphore user. Ansible Semaphore is now all set. We can now start the service using systemd. Now let's check the Semaphore service status. Also, we verified that the service should now be listening to port 3000. Next, we install and configure Nginx as a reverse proxy for Semaphore. First, we create Nginx repo file. And then we install Nginx using the dnf install command. Once Nginx is installed, we can start and enable it during startup. We can now configure Nginx as a reverse proxy for Semaphore. Create the SSL directory and change to this directory. Then create the SSL info text file that we will use for answering the SSL information when we generate the certificates. And now, to generate the certificate, we execute the OpenSSL command. Then we create the Nginx configuration file for Semaphore reverse proxy. Then we remove the default configuration file to avoid conflict with the Semaphore configuration. It's a good practice to validate file syntax after the change. Now let's restart Nginx for the new configuration to take effect. By default, Firewall D is running on Alma Linux 9. We need to permanently allow 443 on the firewall by using this command. And restarting Firewall D service. Also, we need to set SELinux. At this point, everything has been installed and set up. Open your web browser and type in the IP address of the Semaphore server. Use the username created earlier during installation to sign in. After authentication, the web console for Semaphore should be shown. You're ready to manage your servers with Ansible and powerful web UI. On my next video, I will show you how we can use and run Ansible playbooks using Ansible Semaphore. So subscribe and hit that notification bell. That's all for now. Drop me your feedback and comments below. If this video helped you in any way, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.